The smallest trains we make are N-scale trains. The N in N-scale stands for 9 millimeters between the rails. It's also called N-gauge for this reason. The proportion of these trains is 1 to 160. This lets you build a layout in a very small space, or if you have a moderate to large space, you can build a layout which allows you to run really long trains. This is a lot of the fun in N-scale. Your N-scale train set comes with a list of contents. You should check your list to make sure that you have all the parts necessary to assemble your set. In general, your set will include a locomotive, rolling stock or cars, an oval of EZ-Track, including a terminal re-railer, a wall-pack power supply, speed control, and terminal hookup wires. Please note that during shipping, a car's wheel set may sometimes pop loose. The wheel set can easily be replaced by gently prying apart the truck and repositioning the wheels. The first thing you need to decide is where to set up your train. Any dry, firm, and flat surface will do, such as a floor, carpet, or tabletop. However, for long-term use, we recommend you set up a tabletop at a convenient height. To make sure you have enough working room, it's a good idea to make a rough track layout by loosely placing sections of track in the configuration desired. Please note that the terminal re-railer section will later be connected to the power pack and power supply, so it's best to place it in a location convenient to a wall outlet or power strip. Once you've decided on all track placement, it's time to start assembling the track. This is probably the most important step required for successful operation of your train. Good track connections ensure a smooth operating surface and continuous contact for the track's electrical circuit. When assembling the track, push it together firmly and at the same time make sure the rail and rail joiners are seated properly. The rail joiner should slip over both bottom flanges of the rails, here and here. You must take care that the rail joiners do not slip under the rails without properly connecting. This will result in train derailments and electrical circuit interruptions. With a little practice, the track sections will snap together easily. But take your time. It cannot be overemphasized how important track assembly is for proper operation of your train. After your track is assembled, you need to double-check for joint connection and fit. Do this by lightly running your fingers over the top surface of the rails in both directions. Any problems will be detected by bumps on the track surface, and these can be corrected by carefully checking the rail joiner fit. Some of Bachmann's train sets come with locomotives equipped with our DCC onboard digital decoders. If your locomotive is so equipped, you might want to look into purchasing Bachmann's EZ-Command digital command control system as shown here. However, the power supply and speed controller supplied with your set is more than adequate for running your locomotive. Okay, the track's assembled and we're ready to make the power connections. Our power supply and speed controller are a true plug-and-play system. No tools are necessary. But hold on, before plugging it in to the power strip or the wall socket, let's review the connection procedure. Power is supplied to the track and the locomotive by the power supply, speed controller, terminal wire, and EZ-Track terminal re-railer. The first step in power connection is to turn the knob on the speed controller to 0. Next, we will attach the terminal wire to the speed controller. Simply plug it in the back of the speed controller where it says Output to Track. Next, plug the terminal wire into the EZ-Track terminal re-railer. Finally, plug in the connecting wire from the power supply into the back of the speed controller where it's labeled 16 volts AC in. Some Bachmann train sets come with a speed controller that has 2 push-button connectors labeled Accessories 16 volts AC on the back. These buttons are used to supply AC power to accessories such as track switches. To make a positive and secure connection, simply push the button in and insert one of the bare ends of the connection wire from your accessory through the opening. Now do the same with the other button and the other connecting wire from your accessory. Remember, your speed control is capable of powering one accessory at a time. Connecting many accessories to the controller will draw current from your track and result in slower locomotive operation or trip the controller's internal circuit breaker. With the exception of plugging in the power supply, your power connections are now complete, and it's time to put your train on the track. Put the locomotive on the track and run the wheels back and forth over the terminal rerailer track. When the locomotive glides smoothly over the track, you know the wheels are all on the track. If your set comes with a tender, this should be next. It attaches to the locomotive with a special drawbar coupler. Add the rest of the cars that came with your set to the train by placing them on the track and running them back and forth over the terminal rerailer until they glide smoothly. Then gently push them together. For best results, you should couple cars on a straight section of track whenever possible. Now you're ready to go. This is the part we've been waiting for. Be sure the knob on the speed controller is set to 0 and plug in the power supply. Now begin feeding power to the track by slowly turning the knob on the speed controller clockwise. When you do this, observe the direction the locomotive travels. If it moves backwards when the control indicates forward, stop the train and then simply disconnect, flip, and reconnect the terminal wire to the terminal rerailer track. The locomotive will now move forward as the direction button on the speed controller indicates. Look at her go. Here's an action checklist for you to follow if your train doesn't run or stops running. Make sure the power supply is plugged into a live receptacle. Make sure all locomotive and car wheels are on the track. Check to make sure all wiring is secure. Check to make sure the track is properly assembled. And if your train hits a bump or derails anywhere along the track, that section of track may not be properly seated in the rail joiner. Check once again to make sure all track is properly installed. If your train stops or fails to start, a short circuit may be indicated. If this is the case, unplug the power supply immediately. There are several common causes of short circuits that are easily corrected. Derailed wheels may cause a short, so check to make sure all wheels are on the track. Also check all connections and be sure that no metal of any sort is across the rails, including metal-coated holiday tinsel, ornament hooks, or screwdrivers. After checking everything carefully, resume operation. Please note that your power supply is protected by a circuit breaker that automatically resets after a short circuit is corrected. You should allow up to 5 minutes for the circuit breaker to reset before resuming operation. For safety reasons, never leave your train running unattended. And when you are not operating your train for short periods of time, you should always turn the speed control dial to 0. If you will not be operating your train for longer periods of time, be sure to unplug the power supply as well.